Not the Footy Show.
Boss, I just can't believe this. It's fair to get the best day of your life other than your kids getting born. But I know everyone says it, but if you're playing the game and you want to try and play it at the best level, this is all it's all about. No words can explain it. No, what I'm feeling right now, I'm overjoyed by these fans that turned out here today, and it's 43 years in a dry drought, but we bring that trophy back to Redfern.
Be the ball.
G'day everybody, welcome to episode 248 of Not the Footy Show. I'm Warrick Nicolson. That is Mr. Robb Cox. You can't see his face. It's just the way it is, everybody. And here is our 2021 NRL Grand Final preview show. The Penrith Panthers up against the South Sydney Rabbitohs on Sunday, we think in Brisbane. Roberto Coxsmith, welcome. We're getting it off the bat straight away. Are you Squidward? Is it Squidward from SpongeBob SquarePants, or are you somebody else? Am I being confused?
I can be Squidworth if you like. If you put me up there as Squidworth, well, guess what? I'm Squidworth. If not, I am one of the Squid Game from Netflix soldiers.
The triangle one you wanted to be, I think you said before the pod.
Well, I could be the square or the circle as well. But look, I've just finished watching that show with my son. It's whacked. It's pretty weird. It's a Korean show that's been dubbed with American accents for the most part. And it's out there, man, and it's a little bit gory, not for the under 16s, although my son's 14. What am I thinking?
Responsible parenting, but, it's 101, yeah.
I was supervising him while he watched it. So I just finished watching that, mate. But if you want to put me in Squidworth for SpongeBob, I'm happy with that too.
I think it's pretty good. Fun fact, I was in a South Korean drama series a few years ago. You can't find it, but I was there. Anyway, the grand final is this weekend. We have the South Sydney Rabbitohs, Penrith Panthers, Ivan versus Uncle Benny. I'm a little bit more excited about this game than I thought I would be, Coxsmith. I was anticipating Melbourne being there again and just being, they're going to be the best team in the competition and they'll play, Manly or South and it'll be a bit ho-hum. But now Penrith have done the old upset. And South Sydney are in, great form. I'm not only excited for this grand final, as we record here on a Wednesday afternoon, I'm still not sure who I'm picking. What about you?
Yeah, I'm a little torn. I'm very excited about this. I was talking to my mate Chucky from the NRL earlier on today, and I said, how good is it not to have Melbourne or the Roosters? It's awesome. I love it. Melbourne and the Roosters, I think, have been involved in one or both have been involved in every grand final since 20.
Well, let me give you the statistics. Last year, Melbourne Penrith, Roosters Canberra. I'm going backwards, obviously. Roosters Melbourne, Melbourne Cowboys, Sharks Melbourne. 2015 North Queensland Brisbane. Then we had South Canterbury, Roosters Manly, Melbourne Canterbury, Manly Warriors, Dragons Roosters, Melbourne Parramatta, Manly Melbourne, Melbourne Manly, Brisbane Melbourne. Then we go all the way back to 2005.
Lots of
Melbourne, lots of Roosters.
Lots of Melbourne and a fair bit of Roosters as well. And thankfully they're not there this year. Sorry, Melbourne and Roosters fans, but it's nice for a change. And I'm excited about it, man. I said to Grant, Chucky, I said to him, I said, how good would it be if this game was on at ANZ? How good if we had no COVID and the game was on at ANZ, 82, 3, 4, 5,000 people. It'd be awesome for Sydney right now. Unfortunately, we can't have it, and maybe Brisbane can't have it as well. What's the off the top of your head question without notice? What is the default if they don't have it? What happens? Townsville or
Townsville's the one that PVL I think has said. I believe. Look, Townsville have just made out like bandits if they end up with the grand final after getting Origin 1 this year.
I love it.
Did they have the All-Stars game as well at the start of the year?
Yeah, I can't remember. Was that in Melbourne? I can't remember. I wasn't at it, so I don't remember. But
a new stadium and you get everything. It's pretty good.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, if they get it, good on them. Good on them. Just don't expect to ever get it again. This is This is a 1 in 100-year storm. This one.
It is.
No pun intended.
Brisbane, we hope. I didn't see the numbers today actually, but hopefully they get to have their grand final. As I said, I think in a tweet about a week or so ago. The great news about Brisbane getting it this year is that they don't have to get it again. So let's keep it that way. Sydney Siders, New South Wales government, hold on to that bad boy. What we'll do, I'll get some stats out of the way in regards to the coaches in a sec, but the basic premise for this podcast is to just go through the teams and who do we like, who don't we like, where do we think the weaknesses are, and where do we think the strengths effectively. Then we'll give you our score, our first try, and our Clive Churchill option. We'll finish the show with a few little tidbits of what's going on in league, as well as some suggestions around what we think are the best moments in rugby league grand final history. And I'm going to try and put together a bit of a compilation for the supplementary podcast that might hit the airwaves back end of the week. Coxsmith, 10 grand finals for Wayne Bennett. It's a fair effort. He's 7-2 in the 9 that he's in at the moment. Everyone forgets, well, they shouldn't forget by now, he's been 70 grand finals, but he actually made the grand final his first year in the Sydney first grade competition. He was a co-coach with Don Turner at Canberra in 87, lost that one, and he's actually lost his last grand final, which was the 2015 decider when the Cowboys upset the Broncos. In between that, he won 7 in a row, Coxsmith. How many do you think old Ivan's made?
Well, you've told me. So I thought it was 1.
The game here. What are you talking about?
I thought it was 1. I thought that last year was his first grand final, but you surprised me and told me that it wasn't.
No.
So when was his one before that?
2011, he was in charge of the Warriors. I think it was his last year at the Warriors, if I recall. And then he went to Penrith. I think he signed with Penrith already. And they made the grand final and they played Manly in what you described so aptly as a very forgettable grand final. What wasn't forgettable about that was that Sean Johnson performance against Melbourne in the prelim final leading into that game. But yeah, that grand final was all Manly. Ivan 0-3 potentially in 3 grand finals if Penrith don't get it done. It's not an easy stat to come back from. I mean, that's one of the beauties of old Uncle Benny is that he might have been 10, but he's been in the plus for a long time. 0-3 Ivan, and the way Ivan is, it won't sit well with the big dog, will it?
I don't think it would. I don't think it would sit well with anyone. I mean, it certainly didn't sit well with Brian Smith. It's great to be in the grand final, I'd say, for Ivan. But the scary proposition is if they lose, you become Brian Smith II. You become a dude that's been able to get to 3, but you're still wearing the bridesmaid's dress. I think at some stage, unless he loses and quits, I think at some stage he'll get his grand final. But Penrith have got their work cut out for them, which we're obviously going to go into later. But this isn't a lay down misere. I know that there's a lot of people at the foot of the mountains thinking all the boys have to do is turn up. Well, that's not the case. Souths are the informed team at the back end of this competition, and have scored lots and lots of points. They've got lots of points in them. They've got a lethal left edge.
Even without Latrell, that's been proven in the last couple of weeks.
They've got a halfback that's probably the best kicker of the ball in the competition, arguably. And they've got a bench. They've got a bench that knows how to change a game and up a tempo. They're not going to be an easy beat at all. They're a formidable team, and typical of Wayne Bennett. They slid under the radar for most of the year. They got beaten handsomely a couple of times, which maybe made people think, no, these guys aren't the real deal. Well, you know what? They're in the grand final, and you look at their team, and they match up pretty closely with what Penrith have got as far as firepower goes, and exceeds it in some areas.
They only lost 4 games all year. I think that's one of the real things that was overlooked, as you say, in terms of the underdog or overlooked card, is that they only lost 1 more game than Melbourne and Penrith during the regular season. They scored 100 more points than Penrith did. 100 more. Now, comp might have been soft. It was soft, but still pretty impressive. But the interesting part of that is they conceded 170 more points than Penrith in the course of the 24 games they played. Uncle Benny is longevity-wise unequaled. He is always in the conversation around the greatest coaches of all time. If he nails this one and makes it 8 wins from 10 grand finals, I think he's the best. What's the word? He's arguably the most complete coach that there's been, in that he's been to a few clubs now and he's had success. He went back to a club that he got kicked out of or left originally, and then almost won another grand final there. But 8-2, if he gets it with South as he leaves South, he'll be a legend forever as a Rabbitoh. Like Rusty Crowe will, put a statue up for him because he'll have delivered another competition for him. But I want to ask you this. People have been banging on about Craig Bellamy quite rightly for a long time now. And as they entered into the finals, it was the greatest coach of all time. What a performance. I think Bellamy won the Coach of the Year again, didn't he, on Monday?
He did, yep.
He has never won back-to-back premierships.
Yeah, right.
I'm being harsh, but is that at this point in his career in charge of Melbourne now a thing when you consider the great coaches of all time? He hasn't been able to get his team back up to win back-to-back premierships, even when they were doing things with the cap in the late 2000s. They made consecutive grand finals there, but they couldn't win 2 of them before they were 2 in a row before they got taken off. Does this fact sort of really count against Bellamy, I guess, is the question, as much as it is if Bennett wins this number 8?
I don't think Wayne winning number 8 affects Bellamy in a negative light. I really don't. I think while there's a few glaring differences between the two, there's obviously quite a few similarities. And coaching these days, especially with the multi-tiered platform of coaching that we've got, a head coach, a defensive coach, an attack coach. Quite often, the players don't have a lot of minute-to-minute contact with the head coach. So what the head coach obviously does is oversees the other coaches and then has the last word, or the second last word, usually to the captain in the shed before the game. And I think one thing that would be very similar with the two is they know what to say and when to say it. Wayne Bennett and Bellamy have a real knack of getting players to buy in. They know when to put the foot down on the accelerator. They know when to pull it up a little bit. And Souths are just that this year. Just not lumbering, but just trotting along in third position all year. That's cool. We'll take third. That's fine.
Yeah.
Only losing one more. Now, if you didn't know that stat, the way that Melbourne and Penrith got all of the media this year is thanks to Wayne Bennett. He probably figured out, probably halfway through the year, that there's a fair chance we're going to lose maybe 1 or 2 more. And, the ultimate prize isn't the minor premiership. So let's just slide under the radar here a little and, let's let the journos talk about whatever they want to talk about, which is usually the teams in 1 and 2. So I think both, but Bennett probably wins on the media front. Bennett can play a room like nobody.
He does,
and he'll take the heat for his players. He'll do anything for his players and the objective is to win the competition or to win the series in State of Origin or whatever it is. He's a master manipulator, Bennett. Bellamy's a real go-getter, I think. And this is where the difference is. Not saying that Bennett isn't the go-getter, but Bellamy's the guy that will force change and force things that are.
I'm with you. I'm on the mindset. Yep.
Whereas Bennett is the guy that just sits back and lets people give him, the old saying about give someone enough rope and they'll hang themselves. I think Bennett lives by that kind of a mantra. But ultimately, mate, they are, I believe, the 2 best coaches in the comp as far as longevity and runs on the board. And funnily enough, I first met Craig Bellamy when he was running water for the Broncos, and Wayne Bennett was the coach. So Bellamy was under Bennett for quite a few years at the Broncos, and obviously learned a thing or two, and now has used that and brought his own style. And I think he's probably someone was talking the other day about Bellamy should be the CEO or the boss of the NRL, and I wouldn't see that as a bad thing. I'm not
Hasn't
saying
he
he'd
already
want
kind
to do
of
it.
been anyway when it comes to rules and interpretations?
I'm not sure, but what I'm saying is I could imagine him doing that job. I couldn't imagine Wayne Bennett doing that job. But either way, mate, they're both masterful coaches. They both know what to say, when to say it. But Bennett just seems to have a little bit more of a knack of bringing blokes together and get them to believe in something very quickly.
Yep.
Only from the, I could be a bit off there, but only from the results that we've seen, in Origins and things like that. Bellamy didn't have the results in Origin.
No,
it was earlier on in his career.
He picked the wrong time to take New South Wales reins, though, to be fair.
Correct.
Given what Queensland had. You said about Bennett and his comments and getting the team ready for the grand final. I opened the podcast that reviewed the two prelims with it, but he was really open about the fact that this is the opportunity that he just knew his team had to take. He'd been, hoping that they'd get to a stage where this could happen. And he said he'd been ticking off the things that needed to happen to get to the grand final. And you could tell the relief and I guess how proud he was of his team that they'd achieved that, because he knew what it took. And Reynolds said in that presser, he said, where before we went out there, Bennett's pre-match speech had us ready. He had primed us ready to go for that match. And as we sort of, we'll get to the teams in a sec, but right now the story is Bennett passing Bellamy again, I reckon, if he takes this eighth premiership. Even in the current setup, it's such an impressive effort from him to get this team, as you say, out from the shadows and up and into this game that they're outsiders, but they did knock off Penrith last time they played. And Ivan Cleary, you've got a job to do, because you can secure the legacy of this team, really, if they can manage to get a premiership out of these two great seasons.
Yep.
But if he doesn't, it's just going to be a hard thing, because you get the impression that, put it this way, I've seen enough of the Cleary, the friendly Cleary, to know that he has these players buying in and they really like him. I don't doubt that at all, but I don't feel like he's quite got he doesn't have the gravitas of a Bennett. He just doesn't yet. And if he can deliver a premiership here to Panthers now, I think you might see actually almost a little bit more of a relaxed / more likable Ivan Cleary if they get the comp this year, because the world doesn't have to be against him. I must admit, that's the one thing I don't like about him.
The thing is, you don't like him. You don't like Ivan, right? I don't mind Ivan. You've got a few isses with Captain.
I've explained it many times. It's the arrogance factor that just I don't like, and it's the playing the how dare we be scrutinised card when you're deliberately doing stuff. I don't like that.
I think you know what? I think every coach in the NRL has an ego and has a bit of arrogance about him.
They do.
And I think we see things through different lenses sometimes. Look, I've only met Ivan a couple of times, but the first time that I met him, he was a player. And I remember doing a shoot with him years ago at the Sydney Football Stadium, many years ago. I think he was playing for the Roosters. He was such a likable bloke, a really, really good fella. As a young bloke, obviously time changes people, but I can't imagine he'd be much different. One thing Ivan has probably learned at the back end of this year is don't take on Clint Eastwood in a mind game session. It's not going to work, and he'll do that. He won't be saying much this week. He's not going to try and put a thorn under Clint's saddle this week. It's not going to happen, because it'll turn around on him, and it turned around on him last time, and I don't think he'll be doing that. I like Ivan.
I want to like Ivan. I want to like him, Coxsmith. And I reckon if they win the comp, I might start liking him. I just don't like what's seen today.
Yeah. Look, I don't mind it. I really don't. There have been some, and we're obviously going to go through the team pretty soon, and there's some weird things in the team, in my opinion. But mate, I'm not a pimple on an NRL coach's butt. So, I don't profess to know what they know what's happening in their dressing rooms and whatnot. But look, either way, I honestly think that that Bennett will go down, probably for the next 20 years as the best coach that's ever coached in the NRL. And mate, he's 72 years old.
He's not a whippersnapper. I'll just find the age.
What's he got in common with a 20-year-old or a
71 years old?
Yeah, 71 years old. He'll coach till the day he dies, mate. He'll be a coach till the day he dies. And
he's good. Look, we'll take a break here. There's some coach speak, some stats, and we'll get into the team by team breakdown for the 2021 grand final after break here on episode 248 of Not the Footy Show.
Not the Footy Show. I love the smell of in the morning.
Okay, we're back. It's episode 248, Not the Footy Show. Penrith South grand final time. The teams are out. Coxsmith, no great surprises. We do have no Tavita Pangai Jr., but I'll tell you right now, not happy for him that he's missing the grand final, but the late season acquisition element kind of makes it okay that he's not playing this GF as far as I'm concerned.
I have no problem with it, mate. I think he's been pretty good over the last couple of weeks. Obviously, a personal tragedy had him not in the team for a couple of weeks.
A week or two, yeah.
But look, he's been definitely handy for them, and not nice that he's not playing, but what it does is it opens up a bench spot for someone probably like Spencer Leniu. I imagine. Is he on?
Indeed. Yeah. So Lenny Bakes and Leota comes in from a calf injury that made him miss the prelim.
Yeah. Look, Leota will be big, and this is taking into account that they're all, 80, 90% fit. Leota will be good for him. He's very strong in the middle. He's mobile, big defence, and has really played his way into that team over the last couple of years, whereas he was just pretty much a bench player before that.
Fair point.
But yeah.
So let's go back through the teams. We have 1 to 17 for the Bunnies, and as we say, effectively 1 to 17 for Panthers with Leota in for TPJ. Fullback at Coxsmith. I sent you a photo today with D. Edwards on crutches at the training session this morning. You went back and said they're all pretending. Do you reckon Edwards is actually pretending, or are they actually a bit concerned about the stress load on his foot?
Look, he's probably being precautionary, precocious as well. Look, they're probably just cautionary to keep the weight off it for a few days, and probably when they're not training, he'll probably be hobbling around on some crutches to try and get it to come as good as it can. I can't imagine there's a whole lot in it, because if there was, he wouldn't be named, and I would say someone like Crichton would be named at fullback. But look, it could be a little bit of show as well. I said Brian Toto was in a wheelchair yesterday. I mean,
hilarity. He'd already done that a couple of times, I think, at the back end of the year. Get some new material, Brian. Dylan Edwards and Blake Taaffe. I thought there was a real opportunity for Taaffe to step up in that prelim final, and he did. He played really well. If you had to pick one of these two players for the next couple of years, who would you take?
I'd take Taaffe. My only issue with Taaffe, and I mean, hopefully for South's sake, it doesn't come true, but quite often with new young players, they find it hard to string a couple of weeks together. They'll play one good game, one average game. He had a pretty good game last time. But I think Taff's a really exciting player, and I understand that 6 is his preferred position. Could be interesting.
Edwards has great stats almost every single week, but I don't like how he plays. Although he plays the way Cleary wants him to, which is that workhorse coming out of trouble, multiple hit-ups in a set. I don't think he's good enough playmaker. I don't think he's a great support player, but he is one of those important players for how Cleary wants that Penrith team to operate. So he would be a loss if he couldn't play. Taaffe, I want to see more. I have to pick Edwards at this stage. I just don't think I've seen enough of Taaffe. But if he can deliver a grand final win for South, pretty decent thing to put on the CV. But right now, I'd take Edwards over Taaffe if I was building a team in the next year or two, because I just want to see more of Blake. But as a matchup this weekend, I'm I'm fascinated to see if TAFE can replicate the form of the last couple of weeks. The wingers are interesting, Coxsmith, because one of them made the Dally M team of the year and the other one didn't. Now, I like Rabbitoh. I think he's a pretty incredible worker and he can score some nice tries. But Alex Johnson just won the Ken Irvine medal again. All he does is score tries for fun. How did he not make the Dally M team of the year?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one, mate. Look, Alex is one of those players that he's a great finisher. Doesn't create a lot of stuff of himself. A little bit like Daniel Tupou from the Roosters. Really good finisher, rarely stuffs up, and he's good in defence. You know, he's fine where he is on the wing. But yeah, look, I'm not sure how he didn't get into the Dally M team.
They picked Ruben Garrick, just for record, everybody.
Yeah, well, and Ruben Garrick probably, Ruben Garrick probably got in there on pure points scored this year.
Somehow
but I'll tell you,
scored the most tries. That one.
But I'll tell you, if there's a struck match between him and Johnson, as far as who you'd pick first, if you were picking a team in front of you, Garrick or Johnson,
I'd take Johnson in a heartbeat. I wouldn't even go near Ruben Garrick. That's just me.
But Brian Toto comes out on top there out of those two for me.
Yep. Yeah. So they won't match up against each other. They're both left wingers, so it'll be opposite sides of the field. Toto got through the prelim final okay. Regardless of the shenanigans, he'll be fine for the weekend. The other wingers are Jackson Paulo and Stephen Crichton. Now, Crichton got shoveled to the wing a month or so ago, and we were like, ugh, what's going on? He's almost been their best outside back in the last few weeks. He had to shift to fullback in the second week of the finals. Did a really good job, kept him in that match and pulled off a couple of big plays for him. I'm a Crichton fan on the wing. I didn't think I would be. I know we'd prefer him being in centres than Momorowski, but Crichton's finding ways to impact the game, which is a pretty good indication that the kid can play.
Look, my issue with Crichton playing on the wing, is I think he's a better centre than Momorowski. And I'll tell you why. I mean, if Turbo was out this year in Origin, Crichton would have played right centre for him, for the New South Wales. So he's obviously on the radar as a centre. Now, and he can play left and right, by the way. He's not exclusively a right-sided player. So, look, they've built the team, and I really hope that Momorowski and Crichton are as good as they're looking at the moment as far as that little partnership, because they're going to get some traffic on Sunday.
Just a little bit.
Souths nearly always go to the left, especially from 40 metres out. That's their go-to. When they're a bit closer, they'll go to the right, but from 30, 40 metres out, they're going left. Big strike on the left, on their left and Panthers' right defensive edge. So I hope they've got their
it's the communication element. They just need to know who's in and who's out, who's pinching. The thing that kills you when you're playing Souths is if that winger just jumps in too fast, because it'll generally be that the centre will have pushed in on the edge back rower. It's the way Souths run it. And then that exposes the winger to have to make a decision. Does he come in on the centre or does he stay out in the winger? And it's amazing how many times Johnson isn't touched when he scores tries. So big job for Crichton and Momorowski to be on the same page there. The other side of the field, Jackson Paulo, he's done pretty well. I don't see a superstar there by any stretch, but he gets the job done. But he's got to try and contain the Toto factor, and along with, as we get to the centres. But that's where I think there's a bigger disparity between Toto and Paulo than there is between Crichton and Johnson. If I had to pick between the two of them, I would take the Penrith combination. But in terms of pure strike power, I'm all about that left edge with Alex Johnson. The centres, it's interesting because these two combinations, they're very much left and right. You never see them popping up on the other sides of the field at all. I mean, that's the nature of the game now, but you just don't see it. Burton loves the left edge. He'll stay there forever. It's going to be very interesting to see how he transitions into playing in the halves next year, given he's played on one little channel the entire season here at Penrith. He'll be up against Campbell Graham, which is a nice matchup for Wayne Bennett, I think. Graham's done a pretty good job, except for the last couple of minutes of that prelim final last week, of shutting down the opposition centre. And Dane Gagai, who I think really struggles defensively, played one of the best games I've seen him play at club level ever last weekend in the prelim final. He was outstanding. He gets Momirovski. Who do you want? Do you want Momirovski and Burton, or do you want Gagai and Graham?
Well, look, Graham was the other name that just eluded me before when we're talking about right centres for
Origin,
for New South Wales. I think they cancel each other out. I think Burton is very dangerous. He's got this for a big bloke, and he and Campbell Graham are about the same size. For a big bloke, he's got unbelievable acceleration over 10 or 15 meters. He can blast through a hole, and he's got a left foot step that'll bring tears to your eyes. So, yeah, I think they cancel each other out though. Just given the last 4 or 5 weeks, I don't know who I'd take there. I like Penrith, so I'd probably take Penrith only because I like them. Other than that, I don't think that they've done anything better than Souths have done in the last 4 or 5 weeks.
I've enjoyed how Souths have integrated Graham, and it's been because of Reynolds mainly, but Graham's been dangerous in attack the last few weeks. He hadn't been there for a while. He'd been starved of possession because they've been just going left. If I'm South Sydney, I'm stoked that Burton isn't coming up against Gagai. That would be a dead set mismatch from a defensive standpoint. But Momirovski, we know he's not going to.
He's not an excitement machine.
Yeah, he's not going to give Gagai fits, but he's also not going to pass. So if you're Dane Gagai, you have to make sure you make that tackle. That is for sure. I'd probably take the South combo only because of how in the last few weeks Reynolds has unlocked Graham as an attacking player. I've really enjoyed seeing that. And I think the Gagai Momirovski thing is a bit of a wash. And the job for Momirovski obviously is defensively. Into the halves, we have the current New South Wales, what should have been the current New South Wales halves versus the ones that should have played game 3. Adam Reynolds is the big concern from an injury point of view for South. Groin injury that he did a couple of days before the prelim, and somehow they kept that quiet, which was really impressive. Luai, Cleary, Walker, Reynolds, who do you want? I guess in this game.
Take Luai Cleary.
Okay.
I'll take Luai Cleary. I saw some moments last week from Luai that I really liked. Given what I'd seen the 3 previous weeks.
Yep.
Look, Cody Walker is a standout player, and he's dangerous and he's quick, and he's got definitely some great ball playing skills. He's got a great pass on him, nice little kick as well. But I'm not, other than the pass on that left edge, I'm not seeing anything that Luai can't do. Luai's going to have to defend, against Reynolds, and Cleary will look after, or will be defending against Walker.
Yeah.
I feel very safe from a.
It's not a bad matchup to have, is it?
Yeah, I think Penrith are pretty safe in that department. But you know what? Walker is such a schemer that anything could happen.
He won't stay on the left. He won't just sit on his left edge the whole game.
No,
that's the big thing that Walker's got over Luai. He really does.
Yeah. But the thing is, Cleary does pop up on both sides as well. So we've seen that. So look, I think that I would take. I think Cleary's kicking is almost as good as Reynolds's.
I think it's better. I actually think it's better.
Kicking is a bit better.
Yeah.
And Luai's got a nice left foot kick as well. So yeah, I'll take the 6 and 7 from Penrith in that one.
I've got to sit on the fence. They're just two wonderful combinations. It's a big game. The big question mark for me, it's not just Luai, it's Walker as well, because he didn't play in the grand final that they won in 2014. Walker. This is his first GF.
Yeah. at 31.
Can you do it? Yeah, can you do it on the big stage, Cody? Because you couldn't quite get it done at Origin level, Cody Walker. And I think there is a massive challenge ahead of Cody Walker, as much as there is against Luai. But I'm expecting Reynolds and Cleary just to have wowzers of a game. As long as the groin holds up for Reynolds, then I think this is the game within the game, so to speak, in the grand final. Forwards, we're going to rush through this a little bit quicker because there's a lot of like for like. Right now, Panthers forward starting pack is Leota, Coruscant, Fisher Harris, Kikau, Capel, Yo. We all expect Liam Martin to start for Kikau, is that right?
I would expect it. It's happened in the last 4 weeks, so why wouldn't it happen this week?
So we'll say that's happening. It means that South counter with Nichols, Cook, Totola, Kolomatangi, Sua, and Cameron Murray. I have to take the South back at this stage, Coxsmith. In the starting teams, especially if you're going to swap out Kikau for Martin, I've got to take the South starting forward pack.
Yeah, I'm not totally against that, to be honest with you. I think there's a couple of members of the Penrith pack that I'd prefer, but I think as a working unit, I think South might just have the edge in the pack.
Yeah, I really like the job Jaden Stewart's been doing. I know he's leaving the club at the end of the year, but something clicked when he got dropped. Something clicked. He got dropped from State of Origin for Queensland. And he got dropped from the Bunnies, and he's come back and has been a weapon for South. Kolomatangi, very good. And the Nichols-Totola combination has just done enough to start games that when they bring on their aces off the bench, they lose nothing. I still am concerned about the middle defence for the Panthers, and I know that they've conceded very little in the way of points. I still reckon that there's just some weak points there. I don't think Capewell's amazing front on. Yo has to carry a lot. Fisher Harris has to carry a lot. This probably is my biggest concern if I'm Penrith, is that if you've got to rest Fisher Harris and you've got to play Yo for 80, who fills their spot, Coxsmith, when they're bringing off the bench? And the benches are Tyrone May, Scott Sorensen, Spencer Linu, and Viliami Kikau versus Marshall Host, Tom Burgess, and Jay Arrow. This is where I'm worried about Cleary and what he does with his rotations, because he's going to have to rest Fisher Harris, judging by what he's been doing generally with him. And he does like occasionally to give Yo a break. What does he do there?
Well, he's not going to give Fisher Harris 80 minutes. That's not going to happen. Fisher Harris, I think, will probably play around about 60 minutes of the grand final, barring injury. So there will be a rotation there. This is why Pangai was all right. Well, when I say all right, he was a good fit because he could play in the middle and also play on the edge.
Yep.
Leniu is a bit of a younger player. His minutes last week were pretty good. I've got to admit, when he came on, he lifted the energy and a bit of tempo, came back into the team.
He found something.
Yeah, but I think obviously the front rowers that they're going to have coming on are Leniu and
Sorensen will play in the middle.
And Sorensen will play in the middle. And Sorensen's a great defender. I don't think the impact, let's see, when Burgess and Arrow come off the bench, they obviously add another dimension to the team, and they give the team a little bit more leg speed. They give the team a little bit more push through the middle. The big fear though, mate, is if something happens to Reynolds, Benji coming off the bench at 35 years old, I'm not sure, if it happens late in the game and Benji hasn't already had a stint, then I think we see Benji really, really just go for goal, because it's probably the last minutes of football he's going to play. But if it happens in the first 20 and Benji's got to be the organizer of the team, I don't know if that's going to help South too much.
I think if you had to have someone on the bench who could do that job, he's one of the 5 players you might pick. I think it's wonderful for South. If you don't want to lose Reynolds, but if you had to have someone on the bench who could come on and play that role, I'd be pretty happy if it was Benji.
I'd be quite concerned. And look, on the other side of the coin, I'm pretty concerned with Tyrone May. You and I have discussed Tyrone May. I know you don't think the same as what I do, but I actually think Tyrone May is in the bottom 3 of their top 25. I don't think he has any business whatsoever being in that team.
It's a strange role he plays. I agree with that.
In fact, I wonder if Mitch Kenny was fit, is Tyrone May in the team? I'm not sure. I don't think so. He's not a half. He's not a 5'8". He's not a centre. He's not a lock.
He's maybe a lock. If he had to be a position, I'd say he's maybe a lock.
Yeah, but he's not a defensive lock. He's kind of. I'm not sure, but I think that's the one place where Penrith have a chink in their armour. If Cleary goes down, if Cleary pops his shoulder in the first 10, Tyrone May ain't going to bring much to you. In fact, we've spoken about this.
You've spoken about this plenty. Burton to 6. Does it just happen? Does it have to happen?
But does it happen? I mean,
he hasn't done it before. Old Cleary.
Luai took a HIA last week with a whack on the back of the head.
He wasn't knocked out. What are you talking about? Nothing to see here.
Well, he went off on an HIA, and who knows if he was coming back. And they put May straight on. I mean, in my opinion, Burton would have gone to 6. Crichton would have gone to the centres, and May would have been on the wing.
Yeah.
Now, look, I really hope. I hope for everyone's sake in this grand final that we don't see any big injuries like this that upset a team and have another team winning the game because of an injury. But it's happened before, and it could well happen again. They're all carrying injuries. They've all played, a few of them have played Origins as well as 24, 25 games plus the final. Some of them are up to 30 games for the year. And this could be a couple of their 30th games. And injuries happen. It's a long season. They're all hobbling a little bit. There's needles being thrown around and all sorts of stuff, and wheelchairs and crutches. And so I just hope it doesn't. I hope both teams get to play their full potential, and we see an outcome that is warranted, whichever the best team on the day is, not because of an injury, not because of a referee stuff up or whatever.
Let me throw this at you. And we said before, we think that, Kikau will go to the bench and Martin will start. Because there's no TPJ and there's no standout front rower on the bench for the Panthers, is there actually a case that Kikau starts this week? Because we know what Liam Martin did at the start of the year. He played a really good role playing in the middle and coming off the bench. I don't know if Ivan wants to admit that this is something he's got to change things up because it's worked well for 2 weeks. But for me, this is a no-brainer. You get Kikau on the field for longer, and you bring Martin into the game when you need something to counter the Arrow and Burgess factor. I really think this is something they should do.
Has Kikau got the gas to play much longer than 50 minutes?
I'd prefer him to be running out there and trying it at the start rather than hoping the game is there for him to make an impact when you finally bring him on. That's the part of it that I don't like about him coming off the bench.
So you'd bring Liam Martin on as your first replacement?
Yeah.
Okay. So for Leota.
Yeah.
And Lenny comes on.
That way, Sorensen can play for Fisher Harris. And then you've got Lianu who can come on, and either Capel goes off, which is something they've been doing most of the year, and then Martin goes in the back row, or vice versa. I just think it gives a little bit more potency off the bench, which I think they're going to need. We haven't mentioned this at all. Cook, Coruscant, current New South Wales hooker versus the guy who played game 3. Well, 70 minutes in game 3 for him. Coruscant has been very good the last couple of weeks, but Cook was the man in the prelim final. This is where I think you've got the forward pack role in the middle meaning so much, because South Sydney own the middle and Cook owns the game, regardless of how good that Penrith backline is. I'm worried for Penrith if they can't hold the middle, because that's Damien Cook in form. Doesn't look as gassed as he had at midway through the year. He looked really like he was playing with tired legs. He looks good right now. If you want to talk about X factors in the GF, I feel like Cook might be it.
Yeah, look, he's a weapon. He's a dangerous weapon against Penrith. Although I really like Penrith's defence. Their middle defence is very good. They don't often stuff up in the middle. They don't often stuff up anywhere. But grand finals pressure and fatigue and injury compounded it all together can bring on anything. So I think as much as Walker's going to be feeling pressure, I think Penrith's middle will as well.
Yep.
But let's not forget that I think six of Penrith's players played Origin this year. There's some experience that has gone into that, as well as a grand final loss last year.
Yeah.
They'll want to avenge that. They've got, I mean, I'm not saying that Souths don't have anything to play for, because they certainly do. Some are playing their first grand final. But
last grand final at Souths for Reynolds.
But I think losing last year's grand final, that taste that they tasted not so long ago, Penrith, I don't think they want that taste in their mouth again.
Okay, so you're going Penrith. I'm getting the sense you're going the old Penny Panthers. Am I right?
I am going to go Penrith, but anything can happen on grand final day, mate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I went for the Storm last week and totally stuffed that up, as did most people, by the way. I think Gus Gould was the only one on the.
I still maintain what I said last podcast. It was about revving up his boys, and it worked a treat, because now he looks like a genius as well. It's a twofer for old Gus.
I think Penrith are going to get it.
Okay, score?
19-12.
Oh, he's channeling 1991 Coxsmith. Does that mean Appy Coruscant 2 tries? 2-try hero? Racing Centre.
Maybe.
I'm going Souths. It's a struck match, split hair, whatever you want to say, splinters in your butt from the fence. I'm going Souths 20-18. I'm banking on Adam Reynolds being fit and firing for the whole game.
Yep.
His kicking game, for South's sake, needs to cancel out Cleary's. His goal kicking, I think, is the big factor here. If he can kick goals, he's huge, because as good as Tafe kicked last week, can you think of one kick that he had to make in that game against Manly that mattered?
No, not really.
Pressure in the grand final when you're not a regular kicker, it's a big thing. So I'm going to pretend that Adam Reynolds gets through 80 minutes. I'm going to say 20-18 Souths over Penrith. Obviously, not even remotely surprised if Penrith win. As you say, they got done last year. They were, as I say, the 3 best teams in the comp this year. They're playing great football in terms of defensively. I was having a chat with my flatmate today. As you know, I rate him as a judge, but he said he just feels like maybe Penrith open things up in the grand final. I could see it. If the weather allows it and the Suncorp surface allows it, I could see them trying to blow South off the park. His theory was that for 2 weeks, they were worried about losing. Last week, they weren't, and they lifted and they beat Melbourne. Is the confidence back? Is the swagger back? It's a fair point. But I'm going South. That's where I'm going.
Yep.
First try scorer for you?
Crichton.
I'm going with Adam Reynolds. Unsurprising. Adam Reynolds. Alex Johnson. Good on, was. Alex Johnson scoring on the left side, unboxing the right edge for Penrith. That's where I'm really concerned about Momirovski and Crichton's communication, as I said. Man of the match, though. Who's getting the Clive Churchill?
Yo. I say yo.
He's been phenomenal, hasn't he? He really has. And
I think, I think up until this year, I think Cameron Murray was the best lock forward in the comp. I think Yo is now. And
Murray's had an amazing season.
Murray's done nothing wrong.
He's got better. It's just that Yo's and Yo's done it 2 years in a row. His finals campaigns have been, superb for Penrith. I'm going Adam Reynolds. As I say, I'm playing the card that he's fit. He gets through the match. His kicking game is the difference. The forward pack for South Sydney just get on top, and even if that happens, a 2-point game. Cody Walker is a bit of a darling in terms of the media. So if they win and he sets up any tries, I can see him getting it. But if Penrith win, I think Cleary gets it. Just it's the way that they'll vote. That's the sense. I'm not saying he won't be deserving. It's just the way things tend to be done. Coxsmith, that is our grand final previews. Anything else we missed that you think needed to be said in regards to the two sides?
No, mate, not at all. I think we've covered them off pretty well. We haven't talked about their head trainers, but we can if you like. Hey, I've got a question. Question. If it goes into extra time, is it golden point or is there extra time then golden?
It's golden point extra time. So they'll play they'll play. I think they play 2 lots of 10.
5 minutes each way.
And no, I think it's 2 lots of 10. I double check on this. And then it's golden points. So they will turn around.
Oh, so
5 or
so
10. But it's golden point. Extra time.
golden point. So first to scores wins.
Effectively, I think they will turn around at half time, but I think it just keeps playing as far as I'm aware. It's a good point. There you go. Another thing
I actually thought it was extra time and then golden point after extra time, but I could be wrong.
No. So I don't think it's changed since the Cowboys Broncos GF.
Okay. All right.
So there
Let's
we
clarify.
go.
I want to clarify that.
Oh, you've got Google. They don't call me Google.
Not as good as you.
We'll be after the break. Using Google? Yes, I'm very good. Rugby League Project, I'm also pretty good at as well. After the break, we'll quickly sum up Dally M and Tommy finally getting the recognition that this season deserved here on Not the Footy Show.
Not the Footy Show.
Stand by, mate. I've got to go to the bathroom.
No worries. I'll Google while I'm checking.
Evacuation complete. Evacuation complete.
Sorry, mate.
Not the Footy Show.
Welcome back to episode 248 of Not the Footy Show, our grand final preview for 2021. The Google machine has got a workout, Coxsmith, rather than my brain, because it's just useless. Drawn grand finals are now resolved with 5-minute periods of extra time. If the scores are still side the end of extra time, the play will continue until the next score. So it's golden point for those 2 5-minute periods. If nothing's been scored by then, they just keep playing until the result. So they'll change ends after 5 minutes.
Okay.
But it is golden point. So that sorts things. Tommy Trbojevic is your Dally M Player of the Year for 2021. Thankfully, the system didn't rot young Thomas, and I'm very happy with that, because that was one of the best seasons you'll see. Forget what we remember, but just clearly he was just head and shoulders above a pretty decent field in 2021.
Yeah, look, he definitely had the most impact as a player on his team. And I think that's really what you've got to look at when you're looking at Dally M's, who brings the most to their team as an individual. And I think he definitely did that. We saw the first 4 weeks or 5 weeks that Manly played. Obviously warming into the season, but really looked rudderless, looked like they were going nowhere. And then Tommy comes back from his sprint accident that he had with his hammy and changed the team, basically changed the team overnight. Unbelievable machine in both club and Origin. Would be one of the first 3 or 4 picked in an Australian team if you chose one.
He's just a joy to watch. Somebody in one of the WhatsApp groups I'm in, is talking about how good it is to see him win, and he's one of those players that no one seems to hate, which is a good thing. Seems like a great bloke, and is one of the best, if not the best, at his position in the game. And I was thinking, in the years past, we've seen some players who are greats of rugby league, and I was thinking, who does he remind me of? He reminds me of Brad Clyde. Now held in incredible esteem by his opposition players and his teammates. Was considered the best player in the game there for a few years, but just went about it quietly. No one hated Brad Clyde. You had your Langers and your Stewarts and your Dailies and your Meningers, but they all had people who didn't like them. That's the way it was. And there was things that happened on and off the field that sort of shaped how people looked at him. But I was thinking, Brad Clyde's the one that comes to mind. Considered the best, was the best, played some just extremely excellent seasons, and people loved him. And I was thinking that's probably where Tommy is. He's in that category, that rarefied air of universally loved. And that's not always the case, because we've got to get to the other thing that happened on Dally M Day, Coxsmith, and that was that apparently some players out there, they don't like Pepsi. What's going on?
Allegedly, there was a couple of alleged Melbourne players allegedly in a house or a hotel or somewhere like that, doing something with allegedly some crazy powder on a table.
Some non-Pepsi. Yeah.
I'm not. It ceases. It never ceases to amaze me. This. I've got to be honest. Okay, there's two ways to look at it. Let's pretend for a second that it is an illegal substance that they've got a credit card out and doing something with on the table.
Yeah.
How does it get filmed? First of all, how does it get
good mates, Coxsmith? Could have those good mates with you.
I've got another theory.
Yeah.
And I could be totally off the mark, but I've got a theory that
Allegedly.
it might not have been a mate. I've got a theory it was someone they didn't really know.
Mm-hmm.
And that leads me to believe that it might have been a female.
Allegedly.
Now, here's my way of thinking. I'm not ever going to claim that the Cheese or Munster or anyone else who was there,
Chris Lewis is the other one that was there. Yep.
Is the smartest person or persons in the universe, because clearly they're not. If it was me, and if I felt the need to partake in illicit substances, the very first thing I would do is I would say to everybody, give me your phones.
Mm-hmm.
This party does not include phones. So let's put the phones away. I'm going to hide them and you can get them back whenever you're leaving. That's the first thing I'd say. I'm not sure that I would do that kind of thing around people I don't know.
Yeah.
Because even if they've got no video evidence, they run off and tell people. So we're seeing mistake after mistake, but I think the biggest mistake in all of this is doing it. I mean, I know young blokes like to party. I get it. And some people party differently to the way I do or the way I have in the past. But I'm not sure that, everyone makes their own personal choices, but I'm not sure that being a leader of this game or a protected species or whatever it is they are, I don't think it's a real good look to be partaking in that kind of stuff.
But they're larrikins, Coxsmith. They're just boys being boys. I mean, we keep telling them that, we keep putting them on this pedestal of, we love how you act, and then they act like this, and we're now unhappy with them. It's not like we've had any leading ideas of that, that they might want you to start being a little bit responsible. It's the way the game puts players into this position. I don't have any doubt that they thought they'd get away with it.
Well, of course they thought they were going to get away with it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done it. I mean, if you're a player and you sit there and think, if I snort something up in my nose right now, and if I get caught, or if they think I'm going to get caught, will I do it or won't I do it? Now, you'll get some that will do it, but most of them, especially the ones that are on 6, 7, 8, 900,000 a year, probably honestly wouldn't be qualified to dig a ditch, have no other way of making money in their lives.
Like a pretty good hole for themselves here, Coxsmith, to be fair.
Well, they have, and my take on it, ultimately in the end is, and young Reece Walsh has come out, by the way, in a different incident, and said that he did take cocaine.
He's owned it.
He's owned it.
Had the same thought process as the others, to be fair. Let's not pretend that he did. And he
definitely
didn't think he was going to. Yeah.
Definitely didn't think he was going to get caught. My take on it is this: if the NRL can prove it, and they should try and prove it, don't just sweep this under the rug, guys. This is a problem. This is a social problem. This is a problem if you're okay for your very elite players to snort cocaine on a TV ad, then you must be okay with them doing it behind closed doors. So if you're not okay with it, do something about it. And I think a first offence should be 12 weeks. Second offence should be 30 weeks. And if you do it the third time, you're gone, baby. I know that sounds harsh, and it is harsh, but there's only one way you're going to do this. And I mean, short of running around to their houses and hotels and getting them to pee in bottles every second morning, which again shouldn't be off the table. There's no Mad Mondays anymore. Really, they may not be dressing up as Superman and jumping off tables and
jumping on tables this
pieces.
time. Munster was making it look like it was the greatest afternoon of all time. Oh, what a scene, man!
That was Mad Monday. Maybe not all of Melbourne Storm style, but at least a few chosen ones. I really honestly think Bellamy will be shattered over this. I really think he's not stupid. He's not naive. He knows things happen away from his supervision. But for this to come out, I mean, Craig Bellamy owns the Melbourne Storm team, for want of a better term. It's his team. It's his baby. And now there's
culture.
this. Yeah. Do you want that culture in your club? I'm not sure. Both terrific players of the two that we mentioned that are allegedly in that video. But both have got a lot of growing up to do.
We'll wrap this because we don't want to go too far down the road, but I'll let you all just ponder this. Coxsmith just suggested X amount of weeks for open drug use. What's domestic violence worth? Just have a think about that, because unfortunately our game has a way of amplifying some things and looking the other way with others. And if that's the base point for something like this, then what's the base point for something like that? Just think about it, everybody. Some better news. Sad news, but better news. C.S. Oliola's retired. He's hung the boots up. One of those, just again, extremely likable, great clubmen. He headlines a pretty fantastic class of retiring players this year. The two that comes to mind straight away for me are the Morris twins. Again, in that likable category. Not many people had a bad word to say about him. I know we lost Brett earlier in the year and Josh just retired, but there's a bigger list, and encourage you. I'm sure there's a thing on NRL.com and a few other places where you can go through the entire list of players who have retired. But the game has a way, and this is why I bring it up. It has a way of replacing you eventually. So Munster, Smith, Reece Walsh, you're today's front page or website click or whatever you are, but someone else will step up. They will. And if you keep going down this path, you'll be forgotten, because as great as some of our players have been, they'll all retire, and eventually you get pushed out. You get pushed out of the front of the mine.
Well, not only will you be forgotten, if you go too far down the rabbit hole, you'll end up like Brett Dallas. Has anyone seen Brett Dallas' Instagram?
You can Google.
Brett Dallas,
you can find out what's going on there.
Unfortunately, Brett Dallas got himself messed up and mixed up with methamphetamine, and it's not pretty. It's not pretty, and he was a champion player, just like the rest of them. Just, you got to choose your own adventure, guys. And unfortunately, when you choose the wrong way, sometimes it can go very, very bad, not just a little bit bad. I'd be staying away from any of that.
So big round of applause to all those players who are retiring this year, especially the ones that have been around the game for a long time. We thank you for your service. Fantastic job. We're wrapping up the podcast. This is the grand final preview. You've heard our predictions. I'm going south. Robb is going with Penrith Panthers. No surprise there. I want to leave everybody here with just, I guess, a thought bubble for you. Coxsmith and I'll throw some ideas out, but I'm thinking about putting a podcast together. It'll be an audio podcast because I don't want YouTube strikes, so it's the way it's going to be. But I want to collate some of the great finishes, I guess, to grand finals in the last 30-odd, 40-odd years, Coxsmith. And I guess I'm asking you, what comes to mind? It could be a moment in the game, or it could be a post-match speech. When you hear these moments or you see these moments, what are the kind of ones that just sends shivers down your spine that would arguably be in the top 5 greatest moments in grand finals that you've seen?
Well, in no specific order, mate. The '89 grand final in almost its entirety.
It's spectacular, isn't it?
It's an absolute jewel in the crown of all grand finals. Canberra versus Balmain. Unbelievable grand final. If you haven't seen it, watch it all and then watch it again, because it's a really good one. And there's moments in that. There's so many moments in it. It's an ebb and flow kind of a grand final, and it'll take you on an emotional roller coaster no matter who you support. As far as moments go, I mean, look, Scotty Sattler's tackle is a moment. Ben Hunt dropping the ball is a moment, which led to the next one, which is
there's four moments.
There's big in that game.
There's five. There's probably five moments in that game that are spectacular. It's Milford and Hunt dropping the ball to turn over possession to North Queensland in the last 2 minutes. All right. Then it's Cole Felt scoring off the Michael Morgan play.
Yeah.
Then it's Thurston missing the kick.
Missing
then
it.
It's Ben Hunt dropping the bomb. And then it's Thurston.
The drop goal.
That's five things that just go bang, 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 bang. The dominoes there are just sensational.
The momentum just shifted, in the space of a couple of minutes. And so that's a real good one.
Yep.
I had a couple of others that they've just slipped my mind right now.
Well, I'll jump in quickly. Darren Albert, 97.
Darren Albert, yes, against Manly. Darren Albert. Newcastle Manly.
Manly has been beaten on full time.
That play, mate. I mean, for Joey, he sees Hopper at marker.
It could be the best. It could be the best.
It could be the best. Unfortunately, it was a separate competition that year, so we can't really say it was the best because they weren't all in the competition. But that's a really good one.
Royce's two tries. The last
Royce's two tries was good.
One is just, and I'm a Canberra fan, and it's probably the biggest dagger that I've ever experienced as a Canberra fan. Is that try?
I think Russell Crowe with Isaac Luke was a really good moment for me. I was right there.
It was Sam Burgess, buddy. Oh, you mean that one?
No.
You either set the Isaac Luke bit.
Yes. It was the same. It was the same day. But he gave Isaac Luke a ring.
Did you get a photo of that?
Yeah. Sam Burgess was a great moment.
If you know where it is. Yeah, I don't think I've seen that photo.
I think it's on my Insta, mate. You can grab it off.
Is it? I'll zoom it back there because we were both there, Coxsmith, you and I, for that Russell Crowe, Sam Burgess moment.
That was a really good one.
That was cool.
There's been plenty.
Mal Meninga's interview after the '89 grand final, when he just tells everybody you can stuff Origin, you can stuff Australia, winning the Premiership, what it's all about.
This is what it's about. Yeah.
There's another moment in that post game there where Gary Belcher's looking at the camera and they're doing the lap of honour. And the year before, Peter Jackson had signed with Brisbane and gone up to Thingo, and Belcher sees the camera and just looks at the camera and goes, "Jackie!" Basically sucked in, you left. It's a magic moment. You're a Camera badge. Chicka's try in the 89 grand final and even the 90 grand final is pretty special. I'm Canberra biased, but it's the way it is. Daly's try from halfway in that game is spectacular. Could play a decent game in a big game, old Daly. Matthew Ridge, was he tackled? I don't remember. In the 96 grand final.
Oh yeah. Who was it? Who was it in one of the Canterbury Raiders grand final? Who was it that dropped the ball from the kickoff?
Marty Bella. Yeah, Paul Osborne playing the game of his life.
Absolutely. Came from nowhere into that team.
Calling out that singing a song that St George can't play after they beat the Saints. Yeah. I think it was after the second one. Just the disrespect there is just phenomenal. It's great.
Is it 93, 92,
92 and 93. Ellery Hamlin getting knocked out by Terry Lamb in the 88 grand final.
What about Tina Turner singing at the 94?
She got upstaged by the old leather-clad saxophone.
Oh, the sax player.
Oh, Rick Disney.
I was there. I shot that. You know that. That was the first. I think it was the first grand final.
I think you say 93 is the that was there.
93.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. There's a moment actually after the game where Lazarus tries to lift the Winfield Cup with one arm and almost takes out Tina Turner. That would have been an international incident if Tina Turner got a concussion from when Lazarus dropping the Winfield Cup.
I'll tell you what, it's a fair effort to lift that thing one-handed. You've lifted it. I've lifted it. It's a fair effort to lift it one-handed.
It's not easy. Didn't win it, by the way, either of us, but we may have had a cuddle at some stage. There's some fantastic moments. South Sydney winning a premiership after however many years was pretty special. We were there for that one as well. If you've got any ideas, send them through. I'll try and aim to have this out on Friday. It might only be 5-10 minutes long, but I'll put some emotional music behind it, and I'm sure Ray Warren will be front and center in most of the commentary. But there's a believe that the Channel 10 coverage at the back end of the 80s and the early 90s was pretty good. There's some great commentary from
Graham Hughes,
Ian Maurice. We were really spoilt growing up.
The Bear.
Coverage of the game was, thanks very much, Smudgy. Anyway, that's our grand final preview. South Sydney here, Penrith there. I hope you love the game, everybody. It's 7:30 on Sunday night. We think in Brisbane. It could be in Townsville. But Coxsmith, any final thoughts as we wrap up another? Well, we'll do a post-match podcast, obviously. But any other thoughts on the season that you wanted to get off your chest before we go?
Oh no, not really, mate. I mean, look, it's been obviously a year of disruption for nearly all of Australia. So, I haven't shot a game of football since round 16, I think it was. So I feel a little disconnected this year, which is fine. But I've got to watch a bit more football on TV, which has been good. It's been a nice distraction from sitting around for the last, what are we up to now? Week 11 or something? Week 12, I don't know. Nearly 100 days of sitting around doing not a whole lot. And so it's a welcome distraction. Look, it's a game that's obviously extremely frustrating for things that go on in the game, like we mentioned before.
Jerry Sutton's refereeing the grand final. Did you know that? Just to stir you up.
Like I was saying, it's sitting around for the last 100 days. It's a nice distraction, and what Grant Atkins has got to do to get a grand final or a big game is beyond me. I'm not
Jerry
sure.
has invaluable big game experience. But you know what I find funny about that comment from old G. Annesley is that how do you give somebody else that invaluable big game experience? I wonder.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that I've seen Grant Atkins stuff up like Sutton did last week with the ball placement from the
Coxsmith. It's never going to happen again. Just like every other time he says we've fixed it, it's never going to happen again. And 2 weeks later, that was actually the wrong call. Anyway, we shouldn't have ended on referees because referees, let's be honest, it's the most frustrating part of the game in regards to the way the rules are enforced. So let's not go down that road. Instead, let's celebrate two things. There's a grand final on Sunday. May the best team win. And with Freedom Day on its way pretty soon, I'm finally going to get some steak out of you. Canberra have won the last 3 seasons, and I need some food. Canberra versus St. George, Canberra all the way, baby.
Listen, I may not be available. I'm going to live my life, and the last thing I'm going to be doing is going to a bloody restaurant. Okay, come over. I'll cook you a tomahawk.
No, I want to go out for dinner. That's the rules.
Yeah. Okay.
Take us out.
I've got to go. Pepsi.
Not the Footy show.
I want to thank you, members and fans out there, for coming every week. Let's do this! What a day, Chief. Mate, these bunch of blokes are just dug in all year. Mate, we've had our critics and, our defence, we've had our critics, we're out on the feet. We just keep ripping in. Mate, I can't be proud enough to be with a bunch of blokes like this, coaching staff, everyone. What a day, mate, that we've gone through. Yes, sir! All right!
It's people's escape, it's people's relaxation, and we need to do everything in order to continue that great tradition of...
Not the Footy show.
Birthday boy.
One vote. I say aye.
You been sleeping over there?
Pepsi.